Où ça? Où ça? Ah ouais.
September 11th, 2001 is one of the most well-documented events in American history, even though technology back then was nowhere near the level it is today, meaning not everyone had a camera in their pocket. Those who did pulled it out and started taking videos and pictures of the events unfolding. Interestingly enough, when American Flight 11 slammed into the North Tower at exactly 8:46 in the morning, only one person happened to get it on camera. There's actually a full documentary about this, which is really interesting. However, this was obviously no small accident. Endless news stations started covering the event, and considering tens of thousands of people were thought to be inside the building, it was a major news story. So around 15 minutes later, millions of people around the world watched in horror as United Flight 175 slammed into the South Tower, all but confirming that one of the largest scale terrorist attacks in human history was indeed underway. The impact of Flight 175 into the South Tower was captured by countless different angles from professionals and amateurs alike. Furthermore, witnesses inside the building actually survived seeing the plane come in and crash into the South Tower. All of this to say that a recreation of the events, especially considering the tragedy they were and the sheer loss of life involved, would have absolutely no excuse to be inaccurate. Any recreation of September 11th, be it for a movie or TV show, should have the respect to remember that it wasn't just 2 buildings who fell, but 3,000 lives who were lost. Any alterations for the sole purpose of dramatization should be heavily reconsidered, as they may come across as disrespectful to those who witness and live through these events. So with that said, let's talk about every problem I had with the opening scene of Travelers Season 2. If you have not seen this show, I'm going to spoil some very minor plot points, so if this is a show that you've been interested in watching, I would highly recommend doing so first. It's actually really good. And I want to be clear about that. This opening shot of Season 2 has a lot of flaws with it, but overall, I still really enjoyed this entire show. Yes, it's campy at times and frustrating at others, but it's ever so emotionally heart-wrenching. It's a character-driven story that I would highly recommend to anyone who likes that kind of thing. But if you haven't seen it yet, this is your spoiler warning. So 3, 2, 1. The Travelers, as they are called, are people who time travel from the future. That is where they get their name, and it's also explained at the end of episode 1. Now, in order to do this, they don't physically travel back in time. Instead, when a human here in the 21st century is about to die, the person from the future will send their consciousness into that body. At the moment that the person was originally going to die, the future traveler now takes over their lives and continues living on as if everything is normal. Obviously, that is a huge part of the show that I won't spoil for you. However, every traveler has a number, 0415, 3416, etc., etc. And it brought into question, who was Traveler 001? Well, at the start of Season 2, that very question is answered. Traveler 001 took over the body of a man named Vincent Ingram, an IT worker who was supposed to die in the North Tower on September 11th, 2001. Considering that this show takes place in the 21st century, it's actually really clever to not explicitly say this just yet. You are given plenty of clues that this must be taking place in the past, especially with the older computers. There is also quite a sense of dread as Vincent keeps saying that he knew what was going to happen and wanted to save the lives of those there, but simply couldn't. He was merely the experiment, just to see if the transfer of consciousness could actually happen. That's why he was chosen to die almost immediately thereafter. But he couldn't go through with it. They make a very clear point to show that he was on the 71st floor of the North Tower when he says,
"First I hear the plane, and then the explosion."
He continues to make his way down the stairs where he empties out onto the plaza of the Twin Towers. This is when we reveal that he is in fact inside of the Twin Towers. And then says,
And then I hear the second plane.
while that all doesn't sound too bad, there are actually a lot of flaws with that, which I'm not okay with. To start off with, we don't actually know what floor the offices he was originally in were on. We only know that when the plane impacted, he was on the 71st floor. That is 22 levels beneath the lowest point of impact for Flight 11, as the flight itself crashed between floors 93 and 99. So like I said, he was 21 floors beneath that already, which means he was well within a survivable area. However, there's simply no way that he would have heard the plane coming. Not from that point of the building, and not at that time. He absolutely would have heard and felt the explosion coming in. It was so powerful he probably would have actually been knocked off of his feet and not just holding onto the rail, but he would not have heard the plane coming before that point. Now, the second problem is one that many people probably didn't realize unless you've actually looked into this before. But the people leaving the North Tower, even before the second plane hit, were not being evacuated through the plaza. Even before the second plane, it was an incredibly unsafe place to be. The same person who filmed the first plane striking actually went with those firemen to the North Tower and filmed inside the lobby for almost the entire day. It's not hard to see that there was a lot of damage inside the lobby as well. And on top of that, there was a whole ton of debris constantly falling from the top of the tower. When you watch just the news footage of the day, you tend to forget that all the problems weren't just high up. In fact, there were plenty of cars on fire and whatnot around the base of the buildings as well, and again, before they collapsed. And unfortunately, one must also consider that people were jumping from high up even at that time. I will absolutely not show it here, but it's pretty easy to find images and videos of the plaza directly in front of the North Tower, exactly where the show has Vincent Ingram come out, and it's littered in bodies. So he never would have actually walked out that way. Instead, he would have been crossing out probably through the financial center or other staircases. There's a bunch of other ways they would have gone, but just not through the plaza. However, remember when I started this video and I said that there was only about 15-ish minutes between the two attacks? I mean, it was like 16 minutes or so, but yeah, Vincent Ingram did not make it down 71 flights of stairs in 16 minutes. That is just literally impossible. Even if he was the only person in the entire staircase at that time and not a single other soul decided to evacuate the building, he still would not have done it. And while it is a lot easier to descend steps than ascend them, it's still 71 flights of stairs. That's going to take a lot of time. And there is simply no way whatsoever that he did that in just 16 minutes, even less than that actually, with thousands of other people also leaving the building. However, one thing that I've always wondered about this scene is that Vincent Ingram is a time traveler. They know the events of 9/11. Like I said, it's extremely well documented, and just about everything about the World Trade Center themselves is also pretty well known. So Vincent Ingram should have absolutely known the exact time of impact of the first plane, which he did, but he also should have known the existence of express elevators in both towers. If he had left with plenty of time, instead of taking the stairs, he probably would have been able to make his way all the way down to the lobby before the first plane struck. Narratively, it really wouldn't have made that much of a difference. But that's an aside, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just 1 second. Because when Vincent Ingram sees the second plane come in, it does so from the wrong angle. This is not where Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower, and that is utterly inexcusable. If we go back to the footage that I started this video with, you can see that the North Tower is already on fire. Again, it's the one that got hit first, and it's back and to the left of the South Tower. The face of the South Tower that we are looking at is actually the south face of it. So let's keep that in mind as I change to this overhead view of the original complex, where you can see that the North Tower is back and to the left of the South Tower from this view. So the first plane hit the North Tower from the top, or the north, and the second plane hit the South Tower from the bottom, or the south. However, in this scene, you can see again that he is leaving the plaza, and the South Tower is to his right. In other words, he is standing about here during this scene, which means that the second plane in this scene hit the South Tower here. And while this obviously did not take place in our reality, I find this incredibly disingenuous. Because again, this was not just an attack on some buildings. Real people were killed on that plane, and real people were killed in that tower. So while I am absolutely not okay with the inaccurate depiction of any of this, I do understand why it was done. Having Vincent Ingram take an express elevator down to the lobby and be safely away from the towers during the attacks would not have been nearly as dramatic. Having him in the plaza was meant as nothing more than to show and reveal where he was. And having the South Tower be hit from a different direction was really just so it can be seen on screen. I'm sure while this scene was being put together, someone somewhere along the process mentioned how inaccurate all of this was. Someone probably said that he wouldn't make it down 71 flights of stairs in 15 minutes. Someone probably pointed out that it wouldn't make sense for him to be on the plaza, and someone definitely pointed out that the plane was hitting from the wrong side. But it's TV and it has to be seen, and so someone probably brought up the complaints and was met with, well, do it anyway. Personally, I think there are better ways that it could have been done. Perhaps he was on the 71st floor during the first impact, makes it out, goes the proper way, and is a safe distance away to see the South Tower collapse. That way, you still have the functioning beats to start the scene, you also have the reveal of the Twin Towers, and a hugely dramatic moment as well. But all of that aside, you don't just get to take the life of someone that died that day. It doesn't work like that. These were very real people. And you don't just get to throw someone in there and say they didn't die. You don't just get to make up an entire office full of people and say, well, they didn't make it out because they didn't listen. And I know that this is very much a me problem, because in time, it will definitely be okay. I mean, think about the Titanic and the movie from James Cameron. Rose and Jack were not real passengers, but the huge difference there is that James Cameron went out of his way to make everything as accurate as it could possibly be. He tried to be respectful to all of those who did exist, even though in some cases he wasn't, and I just wish the same amount of care was put into a scene like this. But like I said, it was very much just a me problem, and the rest of the show was absolutely worth checking out. That's what was on the brain today. So thanks for listening.